Hello and welcome to episode 1231 of The Sleeper and the Bus. It is Monday, November 20th. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined this morning by Justin Mason. Justin, good morning, sir. Well, good afternoon over here. Good morning to you. We're in the crossover time frame here. How you doing?
Good day. How about
Good
that?
day. Good day. Yes, yes. We can be proper too. Good day, sir.
Yes.
Good day to you.
I'm doing well, man. It's Thanksgiving week. The wife is still rehabbing,
But improving?
yeah, she's one of those people that can't sit still. So
I can relate.
yeah, so trying to get her to just relax a little bit. It's been a little bit of a problem, but she's getting better. So that's
If she's
good.
short-term relaxed, be a quicker rehab, but instead not relaxing is prolonging the rehab, right?
Yeah, because we don't want her to have a setback, right?
Exactly.
And,
exactly.
she's gonna have to restart the rehab assignment and everything.
I cut her from my shallow league rosters, but I don't know. Come back after the new year. What am I going to do with that?
Yeah.
And what's weird is I cut her and she sent me an angry letter saying, I saw you cut me in a league. Like, how does she gets notifications every time someone cuts her in a league? Could you imagine if players got that? You've been cut 462 times. We got some transactions to talk about. And, I was looking back at some old stuff. Today, we're actually going to talk forward. We're going to talk Steamer, some surprising Steamer stat lines. But I was looking back to see if we had some sleeper stuff. And we do have more that we can get into. But what I noticed was by this time, by about 2 weeks from now, cycle it back a year. So, 50 weeks ago, or no, that'd be 54 weeks ago then, is that? What I'm trying to say is almost everything was done by December 9th. When I was looking back at the old pods, the early December pod, the title was 4 miles long because of all the people that had signed, and I wanted to put all the big names in that I could. And then the next pod was the rest. It was back-to-back pods, everyone signed, and that time frame was within the next 2 to 3 weeks. And so I'm wondering if we get that again. Now, that was pretty unique. I'm not saying we're going to get it again, but wouldn't it be cool? Wouldn't it be cool if we did?
I mean, that's what I'm hoping for, because I am I made the decision already this year that I would not do projections on free agents until they've signed.
I think that's fair.
I think there's just too much that changes.
Yep.
And so I am pretty much just waiting for guys to sign before I make projections. I think it's really, really interesting too, because usually it's we have to wait for the big domino to fall, and then the other big dominoes fall, and then these little dominoes fall. And this year, it's feeling like dominoes are falling out of order.
Yes, they are. We're going to get into, well, actually we have one big, one smaller. Exactly. Kind of a mix so far.
But
to your point,
we're getting
they're not falling in order.
Yeah, we're not getting Ohtani and then Nola and then, this guy and then that guy. We're getting, we got Nola, we got Lynn, we got Reynaldo Lopez.
we got some interesting trades. Atlanta's been big on some moves already. In fact, they are the ones that signed Raylo. We're going to get into that. We got some interesting non-tenders that are coming up, or that have happened. We got some stuff to get into. So let's just dive in. Let's talk about Aaron Nola. Now that's a big chip that falls, and maybe that opens up some things. But he's not the top chip, right? A lot of times in free agent markets, you're what you were saying. We wait for the Ohtani chip to fall, and then everybody else. The thing with him though is nobody's like him. Usually, the reason there is something like that is because there are like players, and so it's okay, big dog needs to set the market for B, C, and D players to follow suit. Ohtani is his own thing.
Yeah.
So is Nola the next big? He's the number one after that, and is he the number one SP? Plus, Ohtani doesn't even pitch this year. So did that actually fall in order with him staying home in Philly? Do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I would think that the reigning NL Cy Young would be the big chip.
I think that's a fair point to make with Blake Snell, and then you've got the wild card, but a high end wild card of Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Many believe that he could be the top dog of the pitching market, but it would be unique for a Japanese player to sign to kind of set the market, right? I still think that he's kind of his own thing. He has been officially posted today, by the way, by the Oryx Buffaloes. So the window's open now.
Especially because like there's a posting fee that goes along with it that
Mm-hmm.
plays into how much teams are willing to spend. So like I don't think he's a fair kind of
Also set
gauge
off
of
to
the
the
market.
side.
Yeah.
Again, not
So
we've moved both Asian players up to the side, not because they're Asian, but because of the uniqueness of their
yeah.
Otani's his own unicorn.
Hmm.
Yamamoto is coming over, and we just don't know. So then you get in battle between Nola and Snell, and I think you can make the strong case that Snell would be the top dog and Nola goes before him. But Nola also didn't sign with a new team, so
And supposedly took less money
to stay.
to
So
return to Philadelphia.
do we really get any insights into how the market might go with him resigning in Philly? By the way, for those that don't know, resigning 7 years with Philly, $172 million deal. I love it. I like when the guy stays. You can even get 3, maybe 4 mediocre to bad years out of that deal. But then when you look
Mhm.
at it as an all-encompassing thing for Philadelphia, they don't have to be as worried that he gives 5 good
Mhm.
years out of a 7-year deal because they got him for 700,000 when he's putting up 8 WAR.
Yeah.
But do you think that this even dictates anything in the market because he A took less and B Nola stayed home?
I mean, I think it dictates a little bit because I mean it'll get out what he was getting
True,
offered from other teams. So
true.
Snell can kind of pivot off of those and all the other starting pitchers. You can kind of pivot off of, those but yeah, I mean, it's just it's interesting. I'm a little surprised. I think everybody thought that Nola, or a lot of people thought that Nola was going to end up in like St. Louis or a different team. It's it's a fine landing spot because we kind of know what to
We
expect
know what
from
to expect.
Nola,
Yeah.
but it's not a good park. We were hoping for a park upgrade. We were
We're
hoping
hoping for
for a defensive
defense upgrade.
upgrade.
Yep.
Yeah. Maybe even a division upgrade if he went to the Central.
Yeah.
So, he was my first starting pitcher in our Gladiator League, and
And it
now
would have
I'm
been nice for him to go on the
now
cards.
I'm bumming on that.
Yeah,
So
because we do know all the ups and downs that come with him being in Philly, and we've seen some up and down seasons due to some variance of the park. Maybe the home runs go out a bit more, the defense because they can't get to the balls. That he gets put in play. Aaron Nola is a stud, though. I still really like him. He's just such
mhm,
a Cardinals fit. The interesting thing is, though, we can say that about so many guys in this market that they're going to get their 3 or 4 dudes that they're bringing in, and they're all going to make sense, including the one that they re-signed,
yeah.
that they brought back, which is Lance Lynn. And that went live right before you and I jumped on. And we both talked about how we were this close to taking him as our last Gladiator pick. I went Tyler Wells instead, but I hovered over him, man. Like I had him clicked up there where it says draft
Hmm.
player, add to queue. And I was like, or remove from queue because he was already in my queue. And I was like, I'll get him elsewhere in like DCs or whatever, because I can't quit Lance Lynn. I know you have a hard time doing it too. Obviously, I love this move. He goes back to another good park. I understand the concerns with him, but we almost took him in the last pick of a Gladiator, which is the 23rd round. That's just 23 round. You get your starting team, and that's it. Is this going to raise the price to a level that you're going to be uncomfortable with, do you think, with Lance Lynn? Let me give you his actual price right now. In DC's Draft Champions 50 round draft and hold, it's 280 as the 114th pitcher. That includes what's it called? That includes relievers. So keep
Hmm.
that in mind. But it's about a 19th, 20th round pick with a min of 173. So that, yeah, were you in that draft? Did you take him 173?
I did not.
Okay, that's pretty high with a max of 369. So he has a wide range here. What does excuse me Lance Lynn to the Cards do for you with your undying love of him?
I mean, it definitely makes me more interested in him. It would have been one of the best parks in baseball for him last year. If you look at like his X home runs, he gave up 48 home
Jesus.
runs last year. He would have only given up 42 in St. Louis, which is tied for the second lowest in baseball in terms of kind of park factors helping him out a little bit. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard because I want to say like he just can't be as bad as he was last year, and that he should turn it around. But we're also talking about a guy who's like 39,
37, but
no,
still, your
37,
point
close enough.
holds.
Yeah.
Yep.
Me being 39 now has influenced how I think of old
Happy
players.
birthday over the
Thank
was
you.
it Friday?
Thursday, yeah.
Thursday. That's right. Yeah, Jason trumped me there. Stupid
Hmm.
iPhone automatically sends the message at 9 in the morning. But you are in my phone, and you have been for years. You know
Oh,
Jason, I got my close buddies. Because I'm not great at remembering them
I'm
automatically.
awful at it.
My sister, dude, I think I've told this on the show before. Like, meets somebody one time, their birthday randomly comes up in combo. That's locked in her brain. She's like, "Remember that person we met in a bar 7 years ago? It's their birthday today." I'm like, "What? What are you talking about, dude?" But anyway, happy birthday to you. Hopefully, you had a good weekend celebration. I know you were rehabbing the family, but you are now 39. You are 2 years older than Lance Lynn. But the home runs are still a concern. So I don't think either of us are advocating to overload on him. Again, we both wouldn't pull the trigger, couldn't pull the trigger on him in the Gladiator. Of course, we didn't know he was going to St. Louis. Would you have definitely done it? Do you think if you knew? If he goes to St. Louis at 6 this morning and you make I don't know when you made your last pick, but it had to be recent because I made mine last night.
Yeah. I made mine. I think it was the last night or really early this morning.
So let's say he does
and
it
finished just like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So like the news was out for the last people picking.
And other people said no.
Nobody pulled the trigger. The problem with the Gladiator format. So for those who have never played the Gladiator format or thinking about it, it's a 23 round draft, standard roster, NFBC rosters, standard 5x5 rotom. The part that's not standard is you have no bench. And so you are using all of those 23 guys every week, no matter what. You don't have to set a lineup. You don't have to do fab, which is great. And one of the reasons why it's become so popular is there's no in-season work. The problem is one especially bad pitcher can sink your season. And I learned this lesson last year because one of my starting pitchers was Alek Manoah. And I think I did the math on it. Like, had I not drafted Alek Manoah and I had just drafted if I had drafted a player who got Tommy John before the start of the season, I would have finished first or second in the league. And I didn't cash. I didn't finish in the top 3. I came close. So like one really bad pitcher can kind of sink your season in that format.
That's a great point. So
drafting a guy like Lance Lynn, and the reason I didn't draft him was because he was so bad. And
you'd have to eat
the type of guy
every ounce.
You'd have to eat every ounce of it. So I think in draft champions, he's definitely going to be a guy that I target. He may be even a guy I target in your standard 30 round drafts. But yeah, in a Gladiator format, I don't know that you should.
I actually think you're making a case that he is a bad fit. So maybe we were saved by not knowing that he was in St. Louis.
Because I probably would have pulled the trigger.
I think I would have.
Had my pick not come up yet and he'd been still on the board for my last pick, or my last pitcher pick, because I think I took Garrett Mitchell as a hitter in the last round. I think I probably would have taken him, and I think that would have been a mistake, to be honest.
Again, I was like already hovering. If you tell me he's St. Louis, I take Lance Lynn, I leave Tyler Wells, and then I'm possibly eating 40 more homers, and that wouldn't have been good. So we are back interested. Just be careful though, and format matters. And that's a great call about Gladiator, because you can't cut. It's 23. You eat them all. And there are instances where, like with Manoah, you'd have been better off with somebody who zeroed out in spring. Edwin Diaz would have been a better pick for you than Alek Manoah because he actively hurt you. You mentioned that Reynaldo Lopez, a show favorite, generally by me, signed with the Braves. And I said, we don't have to talk about that. He'll never displace Raisel Iglesias. But that's what I get for glossing, because I didn't read into it. Give us the details on this with Reynaldo Lopez. They're not just bringing him in to be a middle reliever.
Yeah, so I can't remember where I saw it, but people are talking about apparently he's going to be given an opportunity to stretch out as a starter, and then either use as a starter or reliever, depending on how he fares, depending on what team needs are. This was a team that we thought had a lot of rotation depth coming into the year and then didn't have rotation depth when it really mattered. And so he could be stretched out as a starter and use a starter when they need a starter, or put in the bullpen when they need a multi-inning guy. He's, I think Jeff Zimmerman pointed out that he's just been atrocious as a starter. He's just been so bad. And
doesn't work.
Yeah. And this is what I've said. I remember watching him pitch live in San Francisco when the Nationals came to town one time. And I remember seeing him and going, man, this guy would be electric if he was just like a 2-inning guy.
And that happened for a while.
Yeah. And I think that's where he really should be. But I mean, he's going to have value, especially in draft champions leagues. I don't know that he's got value in kind of a standard format, but in really, really deep leagues, he's definitely a guy to kind of, he's going to get usage and he's going to probably get more innings than a traditional high leverage reliever. And, guy can strike guys out. So I think he's one of those guys that, towards the end of your draft champions leagues, I would throw a dart just because those kind of innings can be valuable, especially when you have injuries in other places.
Yeah, one of the things that, has gotten a lot of talk in recent years, I've definitely been part of that, is like, we got to get out of the 5 inning or 1 inning thing. In fact, our boy Doug Thorburn was on this ages ago when he and I used to do
Yeah.
5-hour pods. And he said, back then it was 6 inning, 1 inning. It's like everyone's in this binary of 6 inning or 1 inning. And there's a 2 to 4 inning role for guys that the league has not fleshed out in a while. Like stoppers, traditional stoppers, the first kind of closers, your Sparky Lyles, your Raleigh Fingers, your Goose Gossages, those guys were 2 to 3 inning guys regularly, right? They came in from the 7th when it got hot in the middle of the 7th inning and then closed that sucker out. They weren't just 1 inning guys. I think there's more room for that in our game these days, and maybe Raylo fits that. You give him 50 appearances, but 110 innings. And I think that could be cool. So I agree with you. Draft champions might have some flavor there, especially if you believe in the Braves. They've done pretty well with players, and they don't turn everyone into magic. They don't have magic and turn everyone into a god. But I like that they're taking a shot on Raylo, and I'm kind of intrigued now that you told me how they're going to use him. So that's interesting. Let's move on to another deal. The Braves have been super busy, by the way. The Aaron Bummer deal that they did, they brought back in Joey Jimenez and Pierce Johnson. Then they made this trade here that, similar to the Aaron Bummer deal, I think the name value of what they gave in the Aaron Bummer deal made people think like, oh, they got ripped off, because I know who Jared Schuster and Mike Soroka and Nicky Lopez are, and maybe even Braden Shoemaker, if you're a deep enough fan that follows a guy like that. So they got ripped because all they got was a middle reliever. I don't believe that to be the case, by the way. I think that trade was fine, as we discussed. Again, this is a name situation. They traded Kyle Wright for Jackson Kowar. And I think a lot of people are going to say, what? Kyle Wright, he was an amazing pitcher 2 years ago. And that's true. He absolutely was. But what did he do this year? And what's his current status? It's not great, Bob. He is obviously injured again, pitched 31 innings this year, not particularly good innings at that. And Jackson Kowar is at least a live arm that a team like the Braves that's fully in their window right now, they need somebody who can pitch. And Wright's going to miss the entire season with shoulder surgery. Kowar, for all his flaws, is still 27 years old, former first-round pick, top prospect type. Maybe they see some things that they can fix with him. But regardless, it's an arm they can use this year. What'd you think of the Kyle Wright for Jackson Kowar deal? Obviously, Wright is like dynasty. Maybe you hold through this year if you really want to do a lottery ticket. So I'm kind of interested mostly in what you think of Kowar and if he can be anything for the Braves.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Kowar's been pretty bad.
Been pretty rough in the majors.
I think this is just like we're going to take a shot. Like you said, we know that Kowar is at least going to be able to pitch. He still has an MLB or MILB option, left. Whereas I think they just don't expect anything from Kyle Wright, at least in the next year. So if not,
he's fully
the
out
rest
this
of his
year.
career. So I mean, Kowar just can't find the plate. And maybe they see something in his mechanics that they think they can fix. But I mean, at this point, he's nothing more than kind of a low middle reliever kind of guy.
filler.
Yeah. Or potentially a AAA filler. But I mean, he hasn't started any games. He started one game in AAA last year. Like he's not even.
Oh wow! So they were just relieving him there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So then there's really nothing. Yeah, but then again, the name value is like Jackson or Kyle Wright. Holy crap! But when you're missing the whole year, you've had a bevy of injuries in the first place. Yeah, 2022 was great for him, but I tend to trust the Braves, and I think they know what they're doing here. So even though they gave a name, and by the way, I actually don't hate this for the Royals. Take the shot.
No,
if you're done with Kowar, like this is another one that I think is win-win. I liked what the White Sox did with the Braves deal, and I like what the Royals do here. Take your shot,
especially because they can put Kyle Wright on the 60-man IL, and it won't count against the
No 40 spot.
40-man, the
Exactly.
40-man spot. So it allows them to potentially sign someone else or take someone in the Rule 5 draft. So I think that it made a lot of sense, I think, for the Royals, and probably makes a lot of sense for Atlanta too. I mean, just because Kowar has not been good and he's now a reliever doesn't mean, he's still striking out a guy, an inning.
We're still talking about 74 innings over 3 years. It's been
Yeah.
horrendous, but like, think about what, I know the easy go-to these days is like Lucas Giolito the year before he broke out. He's like quite literally the worst pitcher in baseball. But I don't have them off the top of my head, but I promise you I can go find a bunch of examples of guys that looked like they were dead and weren't ever going to offer anything in the majors before turning it around and becoming something, right? Like, well, 74 innings is nothing.
I mean, one of the guys that I think, could be a really interesting kind of comp that turned his career around in Atlanta after struggling in the minors is Luke Jackson, right? Like, Luke Jackson was a guy who was a top prospect with Texas, really, really struggled, ended up with Atlanta, and they said, okay, well, we're not going to have you start. We'll keep you healthy, and we're going to try to work on just making you a reliever. And he's turned into a pretty darn good reliever and was great for the Giants this year. So, and
Absolutely.
great for Atlanta last year. So, I mean, Atlanta has some talent in developing. So,
I agree.
I think he's Kowar is a guy you kind of watch list in your really deep leagues, but I don't think you're drafted anywhere.
No. Not even draft champions, I don't think, unless you really want your last pick. If you're a Braves fan, maybe that's the only thing I would really say is a 50th rounder. But really just wait and see and trust the Braves. If something starts to pick up, new pitch, more velo, different mechanics, then you could take a shot on Jackson Kowar. All right, let's move on to a couple non-tenders that really stuck out. There were a handful of interesting ones, but the two that really jumped out are a couple of big names. First being Brandon Woodruff. And now, of course, he's out for the year. And I think more than anything related to Woodruff specifically, this is just the full-on signal that they might rip this shit to the studs or damn close to it, because Burnsy's gone, right? Like, we knew that. We knew that when they dumped on him in arbitration, but I don't know if you saw this clip from Foul Territory, the podcast that he was on, where he basically said, I'm out, I'm gone. And he didn't say it with any angst or anger, really, just like he knows the writing's on the wall. The team basically told him that they can't make him a competitive offer that wouldn't be insulting as far as an extension. And so I think he's just waiting for that shoe to drop, as most of us are. So Burns is gone. Next, you start to turn your attention to somebody like Willy Adames. Does he stick around? Do they go get something for him? I don't think Yelich is gone, because while he has rebounded and he's definitely good again, can they get enough for somebody that's owed that much? I don't know. But it might just be like Yelich, Contreras, and a bunch of youngsters with Freddie Peralta atop the rotation. Because Devin Williams, I think, if you trade Burns and Adames, you trade Devin Williams for sure, right? I mean, he's a reliever.
I mean, I would think you would trade everybody. Like, I think you'd trade anybody. I mean, I know Yelich is a little bit more difficult to trade because of his age and his contract, but like, maybe you eat some of that to get the rest of it off your books and get.
At least you're not selling low. He wasn't injured this year. I mean, he had an injury, but he wasn't like, a wasted season. He was very good. 632 plate appearances, nice 4-win season. Like, he's back.
They also like don't necessarily need to tear it to the ground. Like, they,
I agree, but I feel like this is an indicator that they might. I've been saying that they could do a retool, not a rebuild.
I don't know that
I'm thinking that they want to rebuild.
I don't know that this. I mean, I think that. I mean, there was talk about this Woodruff injury being potentially career-ending. So this may just
sucks.
Yeah, this. I mean, I don't think the Woodruff move means anything other than they don't think they're getting anything out of Woodruff, in the near or distant future.
And I guess to be fair to them, he's a free agent after this year. Why would you pay him like 15 mil to, I don't know what his ARB would have been, but he made 11 this year. Call it 13, 14, 15 mil, whatever, to just rehab and leave. So I guess just such a shocking name because it's Brandon freaking Woodruff, but he's literally out for the year.
Yeah.
So why would they pay him? So that's fair. That's fair. So maybe they don't. Maybe they don't tear it to the studs, but I'm fairly certain Burns is gone.
I think Burns he's gone by the trade deadline. I mean, I think they may look to, see what they can get for him in the open market prior to the season. But, I mean, this is a team that can still compete. I mean, they just won the division.
I know.
The idea that they would then turn around and tear it down seems a bit crazy to me. But they're also a team that, cries small market.
Hmm.
And they, may just say like, hey, we can't the Cardinals are clearly going to try to compete again and they should be better, and Cincinnati looks like they could be a powerhouse team in that division. Pittsburgh's getting better. Chicago,
Cubs were there until the very end of it. They're going to be back
Chicago,
trying.
we're a game away from making the playoffs, so like maybe it's time we took our shot and now we got to rebuild it. But um yeah, I don't know, man. Like
I
it's
think there's a world where you could trade Burns and Adames this offseason and get enough to load your team with Yelich, Peralta, um, kind of being, and Contreras kind of being the foundation. I love Garrett Mitchell. Joey Weimer's an interesting outfielder. I think there's some pieces there, Sal Frelick. So you kind of have an outfield
hmm
already there. You'd have to get a shortstop to cover Adames. Like you got to get some pieces, but the pieces that those two could bring and throw in Devin Williams. I think you could trade those three studs and get enough
yeah.
prospects and current talent to where it is more of a retool. But I am nervous that they might be ripping it to the studs. But we'll see. They shouldn't. They absolutely should not. And then the other one isn't surprising from talent, production, or severe lack thereof, but just from the name, Nick Senzel, former number 2 overall pick. He gone,
Yeah.
non-tendered. Is there any hope? Do you think a team maybe brings him back on the dirt to play some infield? He did get some infield this year. Actually, he was primary third base and then outfield, kind of split between those two. A little bit of second base when India was out. But what's the future for 29-year-old Nick Senzel? And is there any interest by you? I mean, he's leaving one of the best parks, so you can't even tell me that if he goes to some place, then
Yeah.
it's going to be some great find for him. So what do you think about Senzel? Is he cooked?
I think probably. I
Yeah.
mean, like I think you'll find a job somewhere.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I just meant like fantasy landscape. Any more hype
yeah.
coming?
I don't think so. I mean, unless he goes to drive line and refigure. I don't know. Like, I mean, there's obviously anytime a guy is a number 2 overall pick and still in the league, like I'm not completely writing him off as he's done for good. But at this point, like I think the future is he is a super utility guy,
Yep.
and that has very little interest outside of mono leagues.
Absolutely. Nick Senzel just, and the simple fact is he hasn't produced either. Like obviously he's
Yeah.
had injuries and not played much, but in his 1,366 plate appearances, he's a 77 WRC plus playing in freaking Cincinnati. So you're going to tell me he's going to a worse park, which unless he goes to Coors, he definitely is because since he's
hmm
number 2. And so I just can't really get excited about him after years of being interested. It's a bummer, but yeah, I'm keeping it. I'll keep him on the radar in terms of like I too will at least check in, see what happens when he signs, if there's playing time potential. But I'm not going to be pushing anybody to be like, no, let's get back on the Nick Senzel train. All right, let's talk some surprising steamer stat lines. The steamer projections are out. You can go on our page and you go to that top bar there where it says projections, move your mouse over it. You can get into the Zips ones, which I believe they're not there yet. They're starting to come out. Sorry, he's doing the articles where he's rolling them out. But then if you scroll down the steamer there, you click that, you get all the players there, and you can go by position at the top, you can go by team, and you can go into the auction calculator at the bottom of that projections tab and put steamer in there to see what's going on and say, oh,
hmm
let's see what we've got here with these projections. And I found some interesting ones, Justin, that really stand out to me. And they're not all on the positive end of guys being like higher than I thought. There's some guys lower than I thought. So I got one per position plus 2 pitchers. And this one doesn't totally surprise me because I love this guy. We've talked up this guy all summer. But the projections are backing the Yiner Diaz breakout. He is the 5th ranked catcher with a 273 average, 23 homers, 59 runs, 70 ribs, and a couple steals chipped in there. And like I said, I'm not completely surprised by that and think or even think it's bad or anything, but I was just surprised that the projections were ready to fully back him as well. What do you think of this Yiner Diaz projection here to be the 5th catcher in fantasy next year?
I mean, if you weren't already on board the Yainer Diaz hype train, I mean, it's kind of time to get on board because the hype is going to be unreal.
Yes.
The problem is it's going to be going at such a furious pace that I think I may end up getting fucking blown off the fucking
I'm worried about that
bandwagon.
too.
Yeah,
Because I'm not sure I'm ready to like
he's already
fully
the
commit.
fifth catcher in ADP.
So okay, so they're just already matching the projections even before they came
Yeah.
out. So it wasn't even hype. They were kind of right, and I say right in
Mhm.
quotes, right? Like we don't know, projection is not Bible, but like I would have thought that when I saw him getting drafted fifth at catcher, that Yainer Diaz would probably come in at like 12 or 13 in the projections, but no, they fully back it. He's right there. He's behind only William Contreras, Sal Perez, Will Smith, and Adley Rutschman in that order. By the way, notice I didn't say JT Realmuto. He's down at 9. By the way, if I can let you know on that. Yes. So Yainer Diaz at 5. I agree with you. I might end up being left in the cold. For you, is it about the fact that he's a bad catcher and that they might start not letting him play as much? Or is it the plate skills because he has no idea what a walk is? Is it just the lack of track record? Mix of those? What is it? Because it's a 3% walk rate, 20% K rate for Diaz in his 377 plate appearances this year. Walk rates were better in the minors, but not so much so that when I tell you that he walked at about like a 6, 7, 8% clip in the minors, that you're going to be like, oh no, that's awesome. It goes closer to 6, 7%. But what do you think of Yainer Diaz? What are your reservations that you're not jumping fully in on him at the 5 spot?
I mean, I think that it is going to be a matter of playing time. I know that they said that they're going to be the number one catcher, and that they're looking for a guy to fill in behind him. But like, and I don't know that his catching metrics are as bad as people have made him out to be.
They weren't last year. He was actually better at framing than Martin Maldonado, but that that's static, or those are noisy, right? Like catcher numbers, defensive numbers are noisy. I still think push come to shove, the better defensive catcher is Martin Maldonado, but he did Diaz did outdo him last year.
Yeah, so I do just worry about like, okay, if they bring in, maybe it's Maldonado, maybe it's a Jeff Mathis type, that there are going to be certain pitchers in that rotation that go, well, I want this guy. Give me the guy who's really good at framing, because one of the things that Diaz is not good at is framing. And so, and it's not like he's got the option to go play first or go DH.
That's
because
the tough part.
Got Abreu and Yordan Alvarez there. Like, so I just worry that I think people are going to be looking at him as a guy that they can project for 500 plus plate appearances, and I don't know that that's actually fair.
You illuminate my concerns perfectly.
That being said, I love the player. Like I do too. And I want him, and I'm sure once I do my projection, I'm going to be like, you know what, my projection still says he's the number 5 catcher or the number 4 catcher. And
I'm just not sure I'm all the way in, because
I just see a lot of risk, and there's so many catchers
that's the real takeaway. Like you highlighted the takeaways I have with the concerns I have with Diaz, specifically the fact that he can't really play anywhere else except but once in a blue moon to get Abreu off his feet or Alvarez off his feet, or if they get hurt, which isn't out of the question, Alvarez's injury history, Abreu's age. But then I look at so many catchers behind and going much cheaper. Like, I'm not out on Wilson Contreras. That's who I took in our Gladiator. He's pick 160. Yainer Diaz is pick 134. I can get 2 rounds cheaper to get Wilson Contreras, and we don't have to name all of them because we've talked about how we like so many different catchers. So that's my concern.
You just said, like, in the projections, Sal Perez is a top 5 catcher, and Sal Perez is going number 9.
Yep.
Like, Sal Perez is going to be on one of my teams this year. Like,
I think so too. He's become that boring guy that people aren't really excited about drafting. That, like, I think somebody like Dave Potts might have an 80% exposure rate to this year. And if that's the case, then you want to be on something that Dave Potts has that much exposure to, because that man just wins with boring ass players, and he admits it himself. I'm not digging at him
even
at all.
Like, to me, like, Jonah Heim was the number 1 catcher in fantasy until he got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
He came back, had a decent playoffs,
Yeah.
right? While playing hurt, right? Like he was still playing with the injury, and he is the number 14th catcher off the board right now.
And
Like,
who's right ahead of him? Name that guy too, because I love that guy still as
oh,
well.
Logan O'Hoppe. Like, I mean, like it's just there's so many, even guys behind like Luis Campusano, like
Tyler Stevenson, I'm not quitting.
yeah, like
And he was the 18th catcher.
I'm gonna have and I mean I know it seems weird because I just took JT Realmuto in our Gladiator, but like I think I'm gonna have a really hard time kind of moving forward taking a catcher
Mm-hmm.
in the top 10 to be or maybe
Gladiator's
top
different
7.
because you're taking JT Realmuto because it's like locked in.
Yeah,
When that
it
dude's
just
healthy, he's playing.
yep
Even if it's not himself the way he wasn't this year, you're still just getting a firm quality
yeah.
at catcher. And again, that Gladiator League makes you do some things where it's like, let me value this stability more than the upside. But when we start getting our DCs, I don't think you and I are taking top 10 catchers very often.
And I mean even like more in like when we start getting into kind of our regular standard drafts, like when we start talking about Yanir Diaz potentially moving up into the top 100 picks,
Oh,
because I mean that's where I think he may end up
I think you're
start
right.
to push. Like we're taking him over Alex Bregman, we're taking him over Kleber Torres, we're taking him over Spencer Steer and
And that's
Justin
if he goes up there,
Steele,
just
and
so people know.
yeah, like
He's not above those guys yet, right?
no, those
But
are
that's where
those are
he'd
top
go
100.
if
Like
Yanir Diaz is top 100.
currently, like if you're taking him at pick 134, which is his DC price so far, you're taking him over Gavin Williams. I'm okay with that. Like one I have a hard time with is George Springer. Like Springer is like I
You
just
drink
feel
that
like he's
bathwater.
yeah, I do. I just drink the bathwater.
And I
Like
can't blame
Christian
you. Springer's such a
Strand.
oh yeah. I'm
Like
taking CES.
yeah, I mean, are you taking him over? I mean, Anthony Volpe. You just took Volpe in our Gladiator. Dansby Swanson.
That's
I
just
don't know. Like those are.
I don't
I
think
think
I'm
those are
taking
names. I think those are names that it makes sense if that's the way you want to construct your team. But he starts climbing up higher, and he starts going over, the Springers, the Encarnacion Strands, the Cedric Mullins. Like, I don't know that I'm going to be willing to do that, especially when he starts pushing up over some of those, really exciting pitchers like Cole Reagans and
Yep.
guys like that. Then I think I'm gonna have a problem.
So it's just gonna be tough with Yanir Diaz. The market's very high on him. And while I do get it, I think you gotta be careful. You gotta be
Yep.
careful with Yanir Diaz getting too set in the fact that he's a G, and it's less about him and more of what's available after him. First base, this one shocked me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, hang on, I did mess up. He's actually second, not first. Pardon me. But I'm still a little surprised to see that Vlad Jr. was second to Freddie Freeman at first base. And, coming off the very weird year, I don't really know what to make of it. It's very bizarre. I think where he ranks first is that his WRC plus of 144 for Vlad Jr. is first at first base, 143 for Freddie Freeman, and tied with Yandy Diaz at 144 as well. But then you go over to the auction calculator, you put in first base, and he's second to Freeman by 10 cents. So they're basically neck and neck there for first. Believe it or not, Sal Perez jumps ahead of them because he qualifies at first, but that's only, you're not putting him at first. So I'm not counting that as a first baseman. But Vlad Jr., very weird year. Didn't really hit it home. Wasn't the new park. Was it just a fluke that happened to coincide with park changes? So we're automatically blaming it on that causation versus correlation type of deal. 285, 36 homers, 96 runs, 107 ribbies, and 7 steals is the projection. Do you buy that? Are you buying in on Vlad Jr.? Because he is out of the first round, out of the second round, not always, but as an ADP, pick 33. What do you think about that with Vlad Jr.?
Oh man, I am buying on Vlad. I think.
Do you buy this projection? Do you think that this is in line with what you're expecting?
I buy certain aspects of it. Like 36 home runs feels like a bit high, right? Like I mean, even if you just look at his 2022 numbers, he only hit 32 home runs. So like,
Yeah.
I don't know where Steamer's coming up with like 36 home runs,
Are we
but
worried that they're putting too much weight on 21 when he hit 48, which included the baby
yeah,
parks that they played in? Because
I
that's my
do
concern.
worry. Yeah. However, I honestly think that they are low on plate appearances.
Okay.
Um, and so what he gives back in home runs may be gained in plate appearances. One of the reasons I was so high on Vlad Jr. coming into the season was that this is a guy that you could pencil in, close to 700 plate appearances. Now, he
Yep.
didn't get
Dude
that
plays.
this year, but 682 is pretty damn close.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're doing that with a good batting average and power in the way that our game has kind of changed, I think that is really, really valuable. And so I think that Vlad is probably a bit underrated right now. I have not done my first base projections yet, but uh, I anticipate that I will probably have him as my number 2 first baseman as well.
Behind
Maybe
Freeman.
even my number 1 first baseman.
Yeah. I'm ready to buy on Vlad. I'm ready to buy this discount. That 36 is just a 3-year average, 48, 32,
Maybe
26.
that's where it comes from.
So, yeah, I think that's probably it. But again, I think then you're overweighting 21, not
Yeah,
because of the distance that we are from it, but because he got like 25 of those homers in those small parks that they were playing in due to the COVID situation. He got,
yeah.
let me see, he got 22 of them, 10 in Solon Field, and 11 in TD Park. And those were in 98 and 96 plate appearances, respectively. He absolutely ate at those parks. He hit 10 in Rogers Center in 152 plate appearances. And then, like I said, this year, Vlad was just very weird at home. We don't really know what was going on with that, if it was the park changes. He did eventually get to 10 homers, but I don't think he had a homer at home for quite some time. And it was just a bizarre year. But I'm staying bought in on Vlad Jr. I think a 2021-esque season, not quite a carbon copy, but I think that is in the cards for sure with him. So I'll have him pretty
Yeah,
high too.
I think I'm going to have him around pretty close to his 2022 season. And
32, 97, 90 runs, 8 steals, and a 274 average. Got no beef with that. I think that's good. Let's go to second base. This one was on a surprise on the high end for me. Andres Jimenez checked in at 7th, so they're giving him some love. They're not punishing him too much for what really wasn't that bad of a year, but he didn't maintain the excellent rate stats that he had last year. So I think it got lost in the shuffle of like, oh, Jimenez sucked this year. And like, listen, he dropped 46 points of batting average. That is colossal. He went from 297, 371, 466 to 251, 314, 399. That's big. But the 4 counting categories, they really weren't that different. In fact, he traded 2 homers going from 17 to 15 for 10 steals to go from 20 to 30. He dropped 7 ribbies, but added 10 runs from 69 to 62 on the ribbies up to 76 runs scored. So all in all, you trade the batting average, you get 10 steals and 10 runs. It wasn't all that bad. He'll be 25 next year. Is Andres Jimenez simply a split between 22 and 23 for you? Do you lean toward more of 22 or 23? Where do you come out on Andres Jimenez? And has he been somebody who's been an early target at all?
He's not someone who's been an early target for me as of yet, but definitely not someone I am shying away from. I do have my projection done for Andres Jimenez.
Excellent.
I've got
Let's hear
all
it.
of second base done. It is pretty much in line with what he did last season, which was 15 home runs, 30 stolen bases. I have the exact same 253 batting average. He was 251. The part I really have a disagreement, though, I have a couple disagreements with Steamer. One, I don't know where they're expecting this power growth to come from.
Yeah, let me give the numbers. I only gave his 2 seasons numbers. I didn't give the Steamer. 265 average, 19 homers, 82 runs, 76 ribs, and 27 steals. 19 bombs.
Yeah.
They got Jimenez coming into some power.
They also have him playing more. They have him with almost 35 more plate appearances than last season. I have a problem with. I don't know where this power growth is going to be coming from. He's not a guy who just crushes the ball or even tries to hit home runs for the most part. And then I have a problem with the counting stats around him. So they've got him for 82.76, and I've got him for 76.65. I think that's pretty pretty ambitious on the runs and RBIs. That
For
team is
them.
not, yeah, the
Yeah.
Guardians are not going to be good. Like,
I don't think they are. You know, they were a team that was so good in 22, and I've mentioned this a few times, but like I can't remember exactly who did it because it was somebody who really crystallized it for me, and I wish I could give them their credit. But they were like, why is everyone thinking that this team is just going to repeat what they did? They got a lot of like not just overperforming seasons, but ones that aren't particularly sustainable, like their BABIP infused or non-power guys spiking some power, things like that. And that person was 100% right, whoever they are. Good job, mythical person. And I don't know where like I love Naylor. We both love, well, I have to specify. I love Josh Naylor. I don't dislike Bo, but I'm just a big Josh Naylor fan. Jose Ramirez is a god. I'm running out of guys that I want to hype for the offense after that.
I
So
mean,
where's he getting all these runs and ribbies for Jimenez? I like Jimenez by the way himself, but
yeah.
other than the Naylors, Ramirez, and Jimenez, where are we at on guys we like that it's going to get him 82 ribbies for God's sakes?
Yeah, I honestly don't know, especially the ribbies. Like the runs, I could potentially see.
Or it's 82 runs. It's 76 ribbies. Sorry. I had them mixed.
Yeah.
But either way, it doesn't change it. There's only 6 difference.
The runs, the runs I don't have an issue with, and I have him for 76 runs. So like, because he is going to be hitting in front of Ramirez and Naylor, but I don't know where
of Ramirez, Naylor, and Naylor.
The back end of this lineup is going to include guys like Ramon Laureano and Miles Straw. Like,
you bite your tongue about Ramon Laureano, good sir.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so I think it's a bit ambitious in the runs and RBIs, and I do think that the batting average, they've got him at 265. I think that is a little ambitious as well. I think it's 253. His XBA was 245, so like he was getting lucky to get his 251 this year. So I don't know. He's definitely not going to be my 7th shortstop or second baseman, but like he won't be. I don't think he'll be that far off. Like my projection isn't that far off from what Steamer came up with. I think it's just a little bit more ambitious than me.
He's 10th off the board, so that's not a huge disparity, but I was like,
wow, that feels right.
Top 10 for him. Yeah, I'm closer to that 10 spot. I was surprised when I saw that they had him 7th. This one, like, look, I get it. People are having a hard time quitting him, but I'm not. In no universe am I paying a top 10 position price for O'Neal Cruz, and they got him slotted 7th here for a guy that he's still in the league. Like, I don't know, like who is O'Neal Cruz? I'm sorry to be nasty about it. I know he broke his ankle last year and it was a freak accident. How dare me indeed. I'm getting tired of overpaying for this dude, okay? Do something. 252, 27, 91, 74, and 22. The runs come before the ribbies there after the home runs. So 91 runs, 74 ribs, 22 steals, and 638 plate appearances for O'Neal Cruz is enough to put him 7th at the position. I can't get there, Justin. I just can't pay the premium on him. Now, in fairness, he's not going 12th in ADP. He is going 12th in ADP, not 7th, but that's a top 100 pick. He's 84th off the board, 85th. I'm not paying it. Are you still in on the O'Neal Cruz hype? And to the point where you're paying the price?
Probably not. I mean, I think we have a very similar issue. And maybe even a bigger issue at shortstop than we did last year. So last year there was this, everybody was like shortstop deep. But as we dug in, we went shortstop's deep at the top and then really thins out. This year,
you said that. I didn't agree with that, but I still think it's deep.
Yeah. So shortstop's just deep now. Like it's just deep.
It's just flat out deep.
Yeah. I mean, there are guys going outside of the top. 15 shortstops, which is, around top 50, 150 picks like that are really, really interesting. Even guys going outside of like top 250 picks that are, JP Crawford, Zach Neto.
Had a great season, by the way, Crawford.
Yeah.
Pena,
Tim
if you still
Anderson.
love Pena, if you love Tim
Yeah.
Anderson, you can do some buybacks there on guys a little bit higher. Story and Adames at 170 and
Hmm.
185 respectively. Correa, if you're still bought in, is dirt cheap at 263.
Yep.
Phew, I got a hard time pulling the trigger, but it's there. So you're right. It
Even
is.
like
It is just
Mason
deep.
Wynn, like Mason Wynn's going to be an everyday player, I think, coming into the season. So like, and I think he's been a little bit buried because he did not have, a good start to his career. But like this was a top 10 prospect in baseball that's not going to have an everyday
You
role
sure
on
he's
a
going to
big
start?
350. I think so. Why wouldn't he?
Where's he going to play?
Shortstop.
Tommy Edman.
Tommy Edman's going to get traded.
Okay, there's your missing piece. Okay, we'll see if
Yeah.
that happens. Then I'll get on board
At
with you.
least
Until then,
that's what my friend Matt Thompson says when it comes to the
Matt's
Cardinals.
locked in. Matt's locked in.
I believe everything Matt Thompson.
And here's the thing: if you want to take a shot at Mason Wynn, it's 351 in the ADP. So I'm not dogging you out for that. He's not starting right now unless they move Edman or Gorman. But if they do, then I'm fully bought in with you guys, and I do trust Matt as well. So we'll operate under that notion, and we'll wait for that chip to fall there. But let's get back to our guy O'Neal Cruz here. You're saying you're not buying because of the depth. So what do you think of the line that's projected here? Obviously, he can reach it, but projections are, they're generally living in a world of like 50% percentile. And so it's like, that's supposed to be kind of a modest outlook, and it still slots him 7th at the position. Where do you stand with these numbers here? 27 homers, 91 runs, 74 ribbies, and 22 steals.
So when like you said, when projection is done, it is typically a 50th percentile projection, right? It's going to be smack dab. It's a median projection that's smack dab in the middle of his outcomes. The problem with a player like O'Neal Cruz is the range of outcomes are so wide. They're so wide. Like they're just like he could be best player in baseball, or he could be like nothing.
Javier Baez.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think he, in some ways, he could be worse than Javier Baez because we know that Javier Baez is playing every day in the major leagues.
That's true.
O'Neal Cruz, no guarantee, right? Especially coming off of a catastrophic injury, his issues with swing and miss. Like if he's playing in the minors or just injured, like I'm not gonna be surprised. So to me, when I'm taking a player as high as you have to take a guy like O'Neal Cruz, which is currently like pick 85, like I want some. I mean, obviously, no player is completely safe, but I want some assurance of safety. And I
do
just don't know that you get that with O'Neal Cruz. I understand the tantalizing upside that you don't have to spend a top 50 pick on, but
still have to spend a top 100 pick. I mean, I'm taking.
I think you will have to.
Bogarts.
I think you will have to spend a top 50 pick on him at some point.
Oh, watch him hit 3 homers in spring, and O'Neal Cruz's price is going.
If he's
50,
playing
100% right.
If he's play every day in spring, then like his price is going to be a top 50 pick.
Yep, you're not wrong at all there. So, if you like him, you should be buying in the winter, as is often the case with these guys. Let's go from one Cruz to another, and the comps are
Can we
so.
Just talk real quick about the projection before you?
Yes.
I don't have a problem with the power projection. We know he's got
27.
Power,
yep.
Right. I don't have a problem even with the stolen bases. Like we know he can run. Where did they get 252 batting average?
Well, and 91. I thought you were going to go to the 91 runs, but the 252. Let's talk about that first. He had 250 in the tiny sample last year. He has 237 in his 410 career plate appearances. I agree. How is that the 50th percentile? Is it just because he smacks the living piss out of the ball that they think O'Neal Cruz can just will himself to a 250 average?
I don't know. You know what his XBA was last year when he hit that, last year when he hit that 250?
265.
213.
Oh, the wrong way. I went the wrong way there completely.
He swings and misses so damn much. Like,
yeah. Well, that's always my concern with him and guys like that. And their batting average can be a sink.
Even when he was hitting well, in 250 for him as well. So you got to kind of recalibrate your thought process on what is hitting well. He had a 4% barrel rate. Like,
wow,
I know
that's
only,
it.
Yeah, I mean, it was only 25 batted ball events. So like, obviously, like, but like, it's not like he was hitting the cover off the ball before he got hurt. Like he, he was fine. He had 1 home run in 40 plate appearances.
In fairness, it was a week of baseball too.
It was.
let's
9
not
games.
get too hard on O'Neal Cruz for the 9 games that he played. But even if you look back at 2022, 87 games, he hit 233 with 17 homers, 10 steals. Like,
There
the
he did
fantasy heat
have
is there.
he did have a 15% barrel rate. Though again, his batting average is 233 and his XBA was 223. Like
So you can't even just power through a batting average. Is basically what that's showing, and which then leads us back to our original question: how the hell did they get to 252
yeah,
for O'Neal
that
Cruz?
I mean that I don't get. Like I think he is. I'm probably going to project him for like 230. If that, like, I mean,
I was thinking 35 or 40, but same vibe there, where I'm not at 252 as a projection.
I
for
can't
O'Neal
imagine
Cruz.
I'm even going to get up to 235.
I'm not. I don't think I blame you for being tough on him.
And I mean, if
I was
you've
gonna
listened to
say,
the pod,
you're the
I have
guy.
been the O'Neal Cruz guy, but like, I don't
That
know,
just
man.
underscores the volatility and worrisome.
And that doesn't even include he's coming off of a major injury that he didn't come back from, right? There was talk, oh, he's going to be back. He's going to be back. He's going to come back. Never came back from it.
He got picked up multiple times in my leagues
I
in
picked him up.
anticipation.
Like,
The news was like, but it
yeah,
didn't
like,
happen. It just did not happen.
And what do we always say? And obviously, we always say it with pitchers, or we say it with pitchers more often than we say it with hitters. I want to see a guy back on the field. Like that's what if I'm going to feel really comfortable about drafting him again the following year, I want to see him back on the field.
Yep. And so I just can't do it. I will not be in on the O'Neal Cruz hype train. Let's go to Ellie. He qualifies at third, so we can slot him in at third here. He ranks 16th. This is one to the negative, where I was surprised that they didn't overrate Ellie, which I got to be honest, between the two, I think I would be inclined to give him more love than O'Neal, because we saw something from him. He ranks 19th at short, 16th at third with a 245 average, 19 homers, 64 runs, 65 ribs, 27 steals. They don't like him nearly as much, Ellie De La Cruz, and they've got him coming in, pretty light relative. The market doesn't agree, obviously, at all. He's quite literally 21 ADP. So there's a big disconnect there. Do you think that this steamer projection will have any influence in bringing the price down at all? A lot of people that play NFBC pay attention to things like this. Do you think that'll magnetize him down? Not a lot, but I'm talking like a round, maybe, like at most. I think I don't know. I doubt it is why I don't really have a good hold of it. But do you think that there's any influence to be had there from this projection on Ellie De La Cruz's draft spot?
I think it could. Like, I think you could drop him below Corey Seager and Francisco Lindor, but I don't see it dropping him down like another 10 picks, which is what you would need to drop below Gunnar Henderson.
Okay. And so to go below Seager and Lindor is really just a 4-5 pick drop.
Yeah. So I could see that, especially when you talk about just the level of safety you get with, maybe not so much with Seager.
With Lindor for sure.
But Lindor for sure, yeah. So
healthy Seager, yes, but we know his health. You've highlighted it, over the years, and he got hurt even this year. So
a healthy. If you could guarantee me 145 games from Corey Seager, like he's a first rounder to me.
I'm taking him in the late first, yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know what to do with Ellie. Like this would be one surprised that I agonize over. I'm definitely less interested in him at his price. This projection is really interesting to me because it says, God, this is such a weird projection.
I think this projection is actually fair. I just think O'Neal Cruz should have the same one. Is really my beef. Or very close to.
I don't think this projection makes sense at all. And this is why. This projection gives him 506 plate appearances, 19 home runs, and 27 stolen bases on one of the best young offenses in baseball. Where it's hurting him is in the runs and RBIs. If he's getting 500 plus plate appearances on the Reds this year, he's scoring more than 64 runs.
That's what I'm thinking.
Like, I don't, because the batting average isn't that bad either. They're giving him a boost in batting average from last year at 245. This projection makes zero sense to me.
Bring back in O'Neal, 91 runs to Ellie getting 64 on those two team contexts.
Are they saying that Ellie's going to bat seventh?
or 12th.
Not
Just make up a new slot for him.
Not if he's hitting 19 home runs and stealing 27 bases, he ain't hitting that low.
No. So that is a little weird disconnect there for me. And
Yeah,
by the way, this is just we're just picking these apart, but we respect Steamer, Jared, and company. No hate. We're just some of these raise an eyebrow.
This doesn't make a ton of sense to me.
Yeah, this one got me a little bit where I was just like, I don't really see that. What I do like about it is it's more measured in the average homers and steals, which I do respect. That's the part of it that I do like, where I like it's a little bit more measured, but it doesn't matter anyway because his price is sky high. If you want Ellie, get ready to pay a second round pick. And I'm not sure it's going to move that much based off of this, but that did stand out to me that he was so much lower than O'Neal Cruz.
Yeah, I'm going to check something real quick before we move on to the next guy. Because what I want to see is what happens when we use depth charts projections, because they give him 40 more plate appearances, which ups his it ups his projection, his runs and RBIs, while keeping the same stat lines.
I like that.
So he moves up to the 11th third baseman.
Okay, so that's a little jump.
And then
that's from 16th to 11th
to 16th at shortstop.
Okay. So he gets a little boost in both spots, and then it brings O'Neal down to 9th, by the way, in that same rundown. So now you got him at 9 and 16. Still too far apart for my liking because I just don't view them that differently. But at least it's closer there with the depth chart outlook that gives Ellie 546 plate appearances, which I also think is light, by the way. I want to be clear.
Mm-hmm.
I also think, why is he not getting 600 plus? Are we just projecting injury? Like what's keeping him from 600?
On who?
Ellie.
I mean, I think the argument is they're so stacked that if he doesn't hit, then he gets down.
Demoted for a couple of weeks. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, which I understand,
off days,
but
extra off days and other guys get in.
I guess I don't know.
But yeah, we'll see. I got one for you that you're gonna like, I think, because it's your boy, one of your boys, Anthony Santander, over in the outfield. And, he's coming off a pretty sneaky good season that maybe not everyone was clued in on because if you didn't have him on your team or whatever, but they got him ranking 22nd over at the outfield with a 251, 29 homer, 83 run, 94 ribby, 4 steal, and 661 plate appearance projection. Good for 22. That's pretty nice for Anthony Santander. Meanwhile, he goes as the 31st outfielder off the board. Obviously, I know you like him, but what do you think of this projection specifically? And are you taking him ahead of that 31st outfielder projection?
I know I've kind of, said I don't understand, some of the projections, but I mean, I don't think Steamer could have hit this one in the head any better.
It's like a Santander homer. It is so well struck.
I mean, it's literally. I mean, this is who Anthony Santander is, which is like high 20s, low 30s homers, and a mediocre batting average, and on an offense that should continue to get better, and so the runs and RBIs, feel right. I think this is fine. I think he is undervalued in the market. And he's the perfect guy that if you're a little bit light on power after your first few rounds that you can kind of pivot to and go, well, I know I'm getting pretty close to 30 bombs.
Now, you didn't do this, so you're not taking heat for this. But in Draft Champions, Wyatt Langford is directly ahead of him as the 30th outfielder. And I cite you specifically because for those that don't know, you took him in the Gladiator, but you took him at pick 232.
Yeah.
98 picks below his ADP, or at least his DC ADP.
It was pretty much just like I was at a point of the draft where like there was nobody standing out to me.
So you
except
said
for Wyatt Langford.
Yep.
It was all
he just kept standing like at the top of our board, and we both even talked about him like maybe if he goes another couple rounds, and he went another couple rounds.
Yeah, and I just I just went, you know what? If it was a $500 Gladiator, not that I think they even have those, but if it was like a $500 Gladiator, like I probably wouldn't have done it because I do stand by what I said on the last episode, which is there is a chance like he's just not in the majors for a while, and you got to take zeros in that format. But in a $50 Gladiator, I'll just throw the dart.
Take the
And,
gamble that he's up after the requisite 10, 11 days to manipulate.
yeah.
And then, boom, he's up, and he and Evan Carter, who by the way it's a little Texas sandwich here with Santander. It's Langford, Santander, and Carter. So let's focus on the draft champions, where that price is. Is it insane to take Langford at that price with Santander going 6 picks later?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Just want to make sure we're on the same page. I wouldn't even take Evan Carter over Wyatt Langford if I'm just being honest. I don't really understand.
You mean
that.
over Santander?
No. Just comparing the two Texas guys, I would take Carter over Langford.
Why
is Langford even going over Carter, let alone Santander?
Because I think
I get the hype, but
because the upside is greater. Like Carter, I don't think has like first round upside where Langford does.
Does Langford run?
That I can't. I think he does a little bit, but I'll double check before I put my foot in my mouth.
Because give me the guy who is going to live on base and score 100 runs without blinking.
I mean, Langford had, Langford had 12 stolen bases between 4 levels. He's got 70
Okay, that's speed. Good. Okay, then I think
a lot of it just comes down to what do we think he's gonna hit? Like, is he gonna be? I mean, he crushed every level, so it's so hard to be like, but he's also projected to have like a 50 grade hit tool. So like,
we just don't know, right? Like it was such a crazy run after being drafted. The Florida product dominated. Frankly, if they'd had like one more injury, he could have been in the Evan Carter role, like with him side by side. They could have been the two corner outfielders dominating in the playoffs or something. Like that's how crazy the World Series winning team is going to get Langford to add to their team. If they do no other moves, they'll run it back and bring Langford. That's crazy. But anyway, this is about Santander. I'm sorry, I've obscured your boy here by talking about these two Texas dudes. Bottom line is projections love him. You love him. Market doesn't love him. Do you suspect that you're going to have a decent bit of Santander again this year?
Yeah, absolutely. This will be the 3rd year in a row that I just soak up as many shares of Santander as I can, especially if the price, because he's boring. He's looked at as boring. He does, he doesn't run very much.
He's 29.
He's in a bad park. The team around him isn't amazing, though. I think it's just going to get better and better as some of these young players
could be next year. Could be next year.
I think this is the perfect Dave Potts type pick, right? Like a guy that he's not going to win you the league, but he is just a fantastic glue guy, especially like I said, if you need power.
And I think with him juxtaposed against the two Texas guys shows you why somebody like Dave Potts takes Santander, because if you're betting on those three who gets 500 plate appearances and you've got like $50 to divvy up, you should put like 46 of them on Santander and then 2 each on the other two guys. Like if you're just saying who gets 500 plate appearances for your life, that's how you should break it down. And that's kind of Dave Potts' theory in a nutshell. He's much more detailed and smart than that, but he's just looking for guys that are going to F and play. And he doesn't need the flashy, cool guy who's in the league a year after he was drafted, like Wyatt Langford. All right, we got 2 pitchers to talk about, one up, one down. The up one, I can't prove this, but I'm 92% sure that Nick Pollock of Pitcher List hacked the mainframe over at Steamer HQ and put this in here because he got Mason Miller as the 18th ranked starter. 18th, Justin. Actually, hang on. I did make one change. It only had a default of 8 pitchers in, and I did do 12. So let me make sure he still ranks that high. Bottom line, he's going to rank way higher than I'm comfortable with for Mason Miller. Their projection is 8 wins, a 3.49 ERA, 117 WHIP, and 168 Ks in 136 innings. In what universe is Mason Miller getting 136 innings? He's 21st. He did move down a little bit. But what do you think of this ranking? This one jumped out to me big time with Mason Miller as the 21st starter off the board, or not off the board, projected.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is, when like a lot of people have asked me, like, why did you do your own projections? And, because obviously I'm probably not gonna beat the machines.
No,
This isn't,
it's not about that for me. It's about
you
learning
know,
the player pool super in depth. Personally, I don't know what your
for me,
raison d'etre was.
I wanted to kind of take some of the noise out of like, oh, do I like this guy better? Do I like that guy better? And by how much? The other thing is, I think there are certain things projections don't do well, and kind of miss out on. And one of them is playing time. And this is a prime example of not understanding how in the world a anyone, anything, man, machine, animal, mythical beast,
A
god,
Pegasus.
yeah,
Actually, I would do the Pegasus projections. They've had some good projections over the years.
yeah, hmm
Don't shade them. But anyway, continue.
can project Mason Miller to throw 136 innings. I
How?
just,
How is that?
I
How
don't,
can that be your projection?
I mean,
I
like,
can't get triple digits for him right now. I can go 80 as a
yeah,
projection. And then if he beats that, great. I'm interested. Like, I'm not fully out, won't ever take him, don't even talk to me. But like, I don't know how you can be super aggro when this guy has 39 minor league innings and he was drafted in 2021.
yeah. And I mean, you throw in the extra 33
Pro
he
innings, yeah.
threw in the majors, and like, hey, he got to 60.
Sweet.
I don't like. Yes, on a per inning basis, I think he could be a really, really amazing, effective pitcher. Um, that like if this was a video game and we took injuries off, yeah, like
All over him,
he
even
might
in
even be a
Oakland.
top 15 guy. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but
This is not the
uh,
world we live in.
yeah, that's not the world we live in, and like he will not be in my top 50 starting pitchers. Like, it just won't
Now,
happen.
let's be fair and point out that this is just a projection. The market is not doing that.
Yeah,
He has
absolutely.
picked 275, Mason Miller is, as the 112th pitcher off the board. I wouldn't say that that's too rich for my blood. That's like in line. Like, there's a bunch of guys here of varying qualities. On the old end, you got like Charlie Morton and Lance Lynn, Stroman and Lugo. On the young end, you got someone like Shoto Iminaga coming over. I have not heard that
Hmm.
name pronounced, so I apologize if I'm incorrect on that. Paul Skeens, Reed Detmers, in the middle, Yusei Kikuchi, John Means. So you run the gamut in that price range. I'm fine with the price. I was stunned to see that they were projecting him for that many innings. And by the way, I will tell you that it's far and away the fewest innings within the top 30 pitchers, and yet he ranks 21st because they love so much what he can do. I haven't even gotten into my beef with the 8 wins. Where the hell is he getting 8 wins? Is Oakland playing 250 games this year?
I mean, they think he's going to win a third of his starts. They have him for
Exactly.
23 starts. I I mean, I
Wins are
don't
hard
know.
to project. I get it. But you say
Yeah,
the crappy teams get fewer wins, the good teams get more. That's still a crappy team.
but
Even if you think they're going to be better than 50 and 112 this year, which I think they're going to be, but I've been
they
wrong
think
about
he's
them
going to get
the last
50%
2 years.
of Oakland's team wins.
Clearly. Yeah, they're going to win 16 this year, and he's getting 8 of
Yeah.
them. So again, this sounds like we're dogging on Mason Miller. We're just facing facts of what his health has been. And the only reason I bring up Nick was because we actually had a little debate about him because he loves him. He's taking the gamble. He wants to
Where
shoot
does
the
Nick
moon.
have him in the list?
It's a good question. I will look that up.
Um,
Let's move on. No, we won't move on. But wait till I tell you the guy on the low end. You're gonna freak. But let's see
yeah.
the top 24 or top 2024 guys. We've got 56th for Mason Miller.
See, that's fine. Like, that is, I have
Still a little
no
rich for my
issue.
blood, but not egregious. Like I
Yeah.
because Nick, for Nick specifically, he loves the nastiness of him. He's like, give me the
Yeah.
nastiness. I don't
Absolutely.
care if he gets -2 wins. I'll figure that out. Now, one of my points of contention, and I also pointed out that this might be a recency bias influence for me because we just came off the season in the main event where I damn near had the best pitching in the league and had the fewest wins. Like, I was great in Ks,
Hmm.
ERA, WHIP, and I was second to last or last in wins. I can't remember exactly where I finished. And so maybe I'm just a little too caught up in that because I will take the best pitcher regardless of what team they're on. And maybe I did too much of that. And I got guys on too many crummy teams and probably had some bad luck mixed in there too. But that's why I'm not. I think what really surprises me about Nick's excitement for Mason Miller is I would have thought in the league types that he's in that he wouldn't want that guy. I do kind of get it. He does focus more on like 12 teams. And it's like if he busts, you just throw him back and go get somebody else. I get that to a degree, but I don't know if I'm taking an Oakland starter in any 12 teamer. I don't think I would take Mason Miller in a 12 teamer.
I don't think I would necessarily,
Because I don't think you can
either.
take the wins hit in those formats. Like
Yeah.
you,
Well, I
everything
also
has
don't,
to
and
rise up.
we'd have to talk to Nick about this, and
Hmm.
maybe we could have him on when we do like a starting pitcher preview.
That sounds
Um,
great.
because I'd love to hear what his process is in terms of translate. Because I think Nick is obviously, and rightfully so, he's really really good at it. Focused on skills, like he's
Yes.
focused more on skills, and like how much does because he reevaluates, does a fantastic pod, with was with Alex Fast out there.
Now with Eric.
Um, like what his process is in evaluating, okay, like yes, do I like from a straight skills perspective and maybe even from a health perspective, Mason Miller is his 56th starting pitcher, but like when he starts to really think about the fact that Oakland may not win 56 games, like how much does that affect where he'd be willing to take a guy like Mason Miller? Because I mean, what if what we saw from Mason Miller at the end of the season is how Oakland plans on using him?
Yeah.
Like we're talking about, like when he came back from injury, he didn't go deeper than 3 innings in any single one of his appearances. He wasn't even starting in his last 3 appearances. Like
Exactly. It was 2, 3, and 2 innings out of the bullpen, which I get. They're not trying to
he's coming
extend
off
him.
an injury. They're not
Hmm.
fighting for anything, but they're
But
not
when
going to
isn't
be
he coming off
fighting.
of injury?
And when are they going to be fighting for something? Like
Exactly.
so. Like I mean,
just-
if they're,
Why would they push him? Why would they even push him that much? And look, you can't just not use pitchers. That doesn't save them. That's not been proven to just save them. But Buck 36 feels aggro to me. And that's how he ended up that high
Getting
there.
the triple digits is going to be a challenge for me.
I already know I'm coming in at 80, 85 on the projection.
Yeah,
I
think
a max.
yeah,
I
I
just
think
can't
90,
get higher than that.
90 feels right, and maybe 90 still puts him as a top 50, top 60 pitcher.
Sure.
Because the skills are so loud, but
not 21. I'm probably giving him 3 wins. Everything else is fine, by the way. I want to be clear. I don't hate the projection outside of the 8 wins and the innings, but those are the key drivers that push him to 21. Mason Miller of the Oakland A's, who we're still talking about here. 3.49 ERA, 117 WHIP, 168 Ks. Well, even the Ks then, because the innings are high, but the ratios are fine. And even the K rate, I will probably have a similar rate of Ks for 85, 90 innings. So I don't know. And then, Justin, when I tell you who my negative guy, the guy that I was surprised was so low is, and you juxtapose that against the fact that Mason Miller was this high, it further boggles my mind. Yuri Perez at 57th with 8 wins as well. 4.08 ERA, 123 WHIP, and 137 Ks in 109 innings. I'm sorry, why does he have 109 innings? Oh, excuse me, it's 123 innings. Why does he have 13 fewer innings than Miller? I don't understand.
What? Like
I don't get it. What am I missing?
Like I understand that like there were some struggles, at the end of the season. But like he was being pushed in a way that he had never been pushed before. And
He's 20. He was 20.
Yeah, he was 19, 20 years old. Like I don't understand this projection at all. Like he does everything he's supposed to do. And even with his struggles at the end of this, towards the end of the season, he still finished with a 3.15 ERA.
Unbelievable for Yuri Perez. He was great.
A 113 WHIP. And they have his WHIP being pushed up to 123 when you got a guy who's got an almost 30% strikeout rate. Like, I'm sorry. Like,
yeah, what's with 137 Ks and 123 innings?
Yeah, I don't get this at all. Like, I just this feels like just a
Slander.
miscalculation. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Feels like outright slander. Now, I did take him in the Gladiator, full disclosure. Maybe I'm butthurt because I just took him, but no, I think when you pair the two together is where you really lose me. I'm like, just how are we getting over to this angle when here he is? I just don't see it.
Like, there, to be quite honest, especially because they have him with pretty much the same walk rate. They have him with a better home run rate. They somehow
They have his left on base rate coming down quite a bit. They got Yuri Perez going from 83 to 73, which would move the ERA up a bunch. I think that's part of it, or the bulk of it, to be honest, and an extra hit per inning from 7.1 to 8 flat.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm not sure. I don't agree. I don't agree.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see an argument that he regresses. That maybe, it wasn't so much of him running out of gas, that the league started to figure him out a little bit.
Sure, that's
but then
possible.
Project him at like a 3.60 ERA. Project him at
still give him more innings than Mason Miller. I'm still
that's
giving
the
him
part
more
that
innings.
boggles my mind. Like, it just
what do you put? I know you haven't done pitchers yet. What are you thinking? Like 150, 160 for Yuri Perez as a projection?
Yeah, I'd say 155 is probably
that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
So
You know what I mean?
The 123 here is kind of surprising to me.
Honestly, with the way Miami uses their pitchers, I wouldn't be surprised.
The bullets.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he hit 180.
Yeah.
I may actually project him for higher than 150 or 155 because Miami has been an organization in which they have pushed their young pitchers. They've not worried about innings limits.
No, because you got a finite number of bullets, and if it's time, it's time. Now, he did end the season injured, and maybe there's some concern there with the left SI joint inflammation. I do not know what that means. You don't want your left Sports Illustrated joint to be inflamed. I do know that, but I have no idea how much carryover that is, or if the offseason is enough to just kind of get Yuri Perez ready to go. But yeah, I just really didn't agree with this one or the Mason Miller ones. These are probably, honestly, of the entire list, the two pitchers are probably my two biggest disagreements with Steamer. Everything else I think I can kind of get to in one way or another. I didn't even have disagreements with all of them, but the two that really stand out to me where I'm like, I can't do it, are the two starters.
Yeah. I don't get it, honestly.
I think that's going to wrap it up here for some surprising Steamer stat lines on both ends, positive and negative. We're going to be off Friday. We're going to go ahead and take Friday off. Enjoy the holiday here. But like I said, my chats are back. I am going to be chatting Wednesday. So if you want to come out, got a lot of you in the comments saying, hey, I got to work. I'm going to be here. I'll be asking questions. Cool. As long as y'all are filling the queue, I'm happy to hang out and chat. So
I'll restart my chats next week as well.
Perfect. So starting
next week, I'll be on full schedule as well for next week.
November 27th, you get Justin's chats back. And again, outside of holiday here and there, everything's pretty much back in order. We're back ready to go. We're working on projections. We're working on articles. We're getting it all done. Justin, I hope you have a wonderful holiday. Hope you had a good birthday, and we'll stay talking on the text and everything, but I'll talk to you later.
Take it easy.